The third kick bent the steel door inward. Avery Quinn sat on the archive room floor, one hand pressed to her ribs, purple bruises circling both wrists beneath her torn cuffs. Outside, a man drove his boot into the lock again. Across the city, Silas Vane projected photographs of those bruises onto the council wall. Roman Calder did this to his secretary, he said. She was too frightened to speak. No one moved. Then Roman's private phone rang. Avery Quinn, he answered on speaker. For one breath there was only static and another metallic boom. The affidavit was written before they touched me, Avery whispered. Silas's face changed. Roman rose. Where are you? A crack split the door behind her. Avery watched a shadow cross beneath it and touched the purple carbon fragment hidden in her sleeve. West Municipal Annex, lower records. Another impact tore one hinge loose. Her voice broke. Roman. Can you pick me up? Before he could answer, a man outside shouted, break her writing hand if she still won't sign. Every eye turned toward the affidavit Silas had placed on the table. Roman looked at him. Why would the men rescuing her need her signature? Silas reached for the file. Roman's hand closed over it first. He locked the council doors, ordered Auditor Lenora Price to come with him, and said no one leaves until I know who wrote her bruises into law. On the phone, Metal screamed. Then the line went dead. 72 hours earlier. Chapter 1. The affidavit written first. Avery Quinn knew Roman Calder's organization by the way its documents breathed. Security orders used short sentences. Council notices hid threats beneath polite verbs. Silas Vane's drafts always carried one phrase for the avoidance of doubt. At 11:47 on Tuesday night, that phrase appeared in a file that should not have existed. Avery sat alone outside Roman's office, rain streaking the windows, when an unlisted document flashed in the version archive. Civilian Protection. Affidavit Quinn Avery. She opened it. The first page claimed Roman had isolated her, monitored her movements, and prevented her resignation. The second described bruising around both wrists, her left shoulder and lower ribs. Avery looked down at her unmarked hands. The file had been created at 9:12 that evening, 2 hours earlier. Her pulse slowed. Panic wasted sequence. Sequence preserved truth. She disconnected the terminal, photographed the metadata, and copied the affidavit onto an offline drive. Page 4 held the mechanism that mattered. Her signed statement, supported by medical photographs, would trigger Roman's immediate 48-hour suspension under the Civilian Protection Covenant. During that window, command authority would pass to the Chief Counsel. Silas Vane. Avery reached for the printer. The screen went black. When it returned, the affidavit had vanished. So had the access log proving it existed. Only her photographs and the drive in her fist remained. You stay later than Roman pays you for. Silas's voice came from behind her. Avery turned. He stood at the corridor's end, in a gray overcoat, silver hair untouched by rain. His expression was calm, almost paternal, but his eyes settled on the drive between her fingers. I found a corrupted council draft, she said. Did you? He approached slowly, every step deliberate. Avery closed her hand tighter. Silas stopped beside the dark monitor and smiled. You were never meant to open page 4. Chapter 2. 48 hours without a boss. Avery slipped the drive into her palm before Silas reached the desk. Page 4 was blank, she said. His smile barely moved. Then you have nothing to worry about. He left certain she was lying. At 8 the next morning, Avery entered Roman's office with the Civilian Protection Covenant. Roman stood by the windows while Elias North waited near the door. She covered Roman's report with it. Read Section 9. Roman scanned the heading. Emergency suspension. Automatic suspension. A signed affidavit from a civilian employee supported by medical records would remove the accused commander for 48 hours. No hearing. No appeal. Authority would pass to the chief counsel, Silas Elias said. Roman looked up. The clause protects employees who accuse powerful men. It also lets one document remove you before anyone proves it is true. Silas wrote the safeguards. That is why he knows where they fail. Avery showed him photographs of the vanished affidavit and its metadata. She kept the offline drive hidden. Until she knew who controlled the archive, one copy had to exist beyond Roman's system and beyond Roman himself. Elias studied the timestamp. Created last night. Her name. Injuries listed before they happened. Roman's jaw tightened. I'll bring Silas in. No, Avery held his gaze. If he knows what survived, he will rewrite the sequence. We verify first. Silence stretched between a man used to obedience and the only employee who told him when an order was premature. Roman nodded. What do you need? Access logs, amendment history, and every clinic authorized to certify an affidavit. Her terminal chimed. A calendar invitation appeared. Trauma documentation, Avery Quinn. Wednesday, 9 a.m., Crow Private Medical. Avery had never contacted the clinic. Roman read the screen over her shoulder. The appointment had been booked 23 minutes before she entered his office. Chapter 3. The video without its edges. By noon, Avery had traced the clinic appointment to a council authorization code belonging to no active employee. At 6, she stood beside Roman at the Calder Foundation reception, smiling beneath chandeliers while cameras recorded every movement. Silas had insisted they attend. Canceling, he said, would suggest fear. Avery wore a dark green dress tailored to her curves and carried the offline drive in a hidden pocket. Roman remained close without touching her. 3 reporters asked whether I am your employee or your companion, she murmured. Which answer bothers them more? The one they cannot print. A service cart rolled backward through the crowd. Its driver watched the stage instead of behind him. Roman saw it first. His hand closed around Avery's wrist and pulled her against his chest as the cart struck the table where she had been standing. Crystal shattered across the floor. For 1 second, his grip hurt. Then he released her. Are you injured? No. Across the ballroom, Silas watched over the rim of his glass. At 8:14, an anonymous message reached the council. The attached video began after the cart entered frame. It showed Roman seizing Avery's wrist, dragging her toward him, and holding her while she appeared to struggle. The collision had been cropped away. Silas approached with concern fixed on his face. That angle is unfortunate. That angle is deliberate, Avery said. She found the ballroom's wide-feed camera in the security room. The full recording showed the cart Roman's warning and the exact moment he released her. Elias copied it to an isolated device. 4 minutes later, the original vanished from the server. The technician stared at the empty directory. Only chief-level credentials could purge event footage. Roman looked at Silas's name on the access list. Avery closed her hand around the copy. Someone was no longer preparing an accusation. They had begun rehearsing it. Chapter 4. The first bruise, Avery left the reception through the garage at 9:06. Elias had offered an escort. She refused because she needed to know whether someone was following her or controlling where she looked. Her heels clicked between concrete pillars. Half the ceiling lights were dead. A black sedan idled beside her car. 2 men stepped out. Neither wore a mask. They expected her to recognize authority, not faces. Ms. Quinn, the taller one, said, "Mr. Calder wants you moved." Roman calls me Avery. She turned toward the security booth. The second man caught her arm. Avery drove her heel onto his foot, twisted free, and triggered her car alarm. The taller man seized her shoulder and struck her against the door hard enough to empty her lungs. Pain flashed beneath her ribs. She tore the access badge from his coat before he shoved her away. Elias appeared at the ramp with his weapon drawn. The men abandoned the sedan and vanished through the service stairwell. Roman arrived 6 minutes later. His gaze found the marks around Avery's wrist, then the bruise forming above her shoulder. Something cold entered his face. Names, he told Elias. Not yet. Find them. Avery raised the stolen badge. After we preserve this, Roman stepped toward her, then stopped. May I see your shoulder? She nodded. He moved the torn fabric aside without touching her skin. His restraint frightened her more than anger would have. You're staying at my penthouse. No. His eyes lifted. I will not disappear into a property you control while someone prepares evidence that you can find me. It is secure. So is a locked room. Roman's jaw hardened, but he listened. Avery requested a neutral residence managed by auditor Lenora Price with neutral guards and a written access log. Roman approved it at 9:31. At 9:34, Elias opened Silas Vane's calendar. The safe house address had been entered there at 8:52, 39 minutes before Avery chose it. Chapter 5. The clinic that expected her crow. Private medical occupied the 6th floor of an unlisted building. Avery arrived at 8:42 under the name Claire Mercer, wearing a cream coat over the bruise on her shoulder. Lenora Price had arranged a neutral driver. Roman knew only that she was verifying the clinic. The receptionist did not ask for identification. Ms. Quinn, Dr. Crow is ready. Avery did not correct her. The examination room contained only a camera, 2 standing lights, and a white board printed with her full name. Beneath it, someone had written 4 locations in purple carbon: right wrist, left shoulder, lower ribs, upper arm. 3 matched injuries in the vanished affidavit. The 4th did not exist yet. Dr. Miriam Crow entered with the tablet. Her smile failed when she saw Avery beside the board. You are early. For what Crow locked the door. Documentation. Of injuries I have not received, I was given a protection order. Signed by whom? Crow looked toward the camera instead of answering. Forms rested beside the printer. The top sheet carried Avery's name and the language from page 4. A purple carbon sheet lay beneath it. She lifted the form as if reading, tore away a narrow strip of carbon and slid it into the seam of her coat. Crow reached for the papers. Those are confidential. They are mine. Footsteps stopped outside. A card reader beeped. 2 men entered wearing Calder security badges. One was the man whose access card Avery had taken in the garage. A replacement badge hung from his coat. Mr. Calder ordered protective relocation, he said. Avery kept her face still, which Mr. Calder, neither man answered. The taller one closed his hand around her bruised wrist. Dr. Crow turned off the camera. Take her, she whispered. Avery looked at the purple stain on her thumb. The clinic had not been waiting to examine her injuries. It had been waiting to finish them. Chapter 6. Protection with locked doors. They moved Avery through the clinic's private elevator with one hand on each arm. She did not fight wildly. Panic made witnesses unreliable. Instead, she counted details, 6 floors down. A left turn into a service corridor, a black van without plates, no written transfer order, no call from Roman. The man beside her tightened his grip when she tried the rear handle. You are being protected. From whom he shoved her into the van hard enough that her hip struck the metal bench. Pain flared along her side, low and hot. The new bruise would bloom exactly where the affidavit had promised it would. That frightened her more than the force itself. The van stopped 41 minutes later beneath a building that smelled of damp paper and radiator dust. West Municipal Annex, she realized from the faded seal on the loading bay wall. The old records building had been closed to the public for years. Closed buildings made clean lies. They took her to a windowless room with a bolted table, one camera, and a monitor fixed high in the corner. Plastic restraints waited beside a single fountain pen. On the table lay the complete affidavit. Her name, her injuries, her accusation, a signature line. Avery laughed once, breathless and bitter. "You wrote the bruises first, and the truth never at all." The taller guard caught her by both wrists and forced her into the chair. The plastic tie bit into skin already tender from the garage and the clinic. Another man pinned her shoulder while a woman photographed the marks. Flash, wrist, flash, shoulder, flash. Ribs, evidence being manufactured in sequence. Avery turned her face away from the camera and felt the strip of purple carbon still hidden inside her coat seam. The monitor flickered on. Silas Vane appeared silver-haired and immaculate, as if he had not touched the machinery of this room with his own hands. "The council convenes at 2:14, he said. "Sign now, and this remains administrative." "And if I don't?" His expression stayed almost kind, then it becomes persuasive. He nodded to someone off-screen. "Get her signature before then." Chapter 7, Can you pick me up at 2:07? The lights failed. For 3 seconds, West Municipal Annex vanished into darkness. The camera died. The restraints on Avery's wrists did not. She dragged the chair sideways until one metal leg struck the radiator valve. On the third impact, the plastic tie split against its sharp edge. Emergency lights flickered red. Avery freed one hand, seized the fountain pen, and drove it into the keypad. Sparks snapped. The lock released. She ran. Voices erupted behind her as she crossed the lower records hall. A mechanical bell rang somewhere above one dull note, then silence. Avery found an archive room with a steel door slipped inside and turned the manual bolt. Her phone was still in her coat. The purple carbon strip remained hidden in its seam. Roman answered on the first ring. She heard the council chamber around him before his voice. "Avery. The affidavit was written before they touched me." A boot struck the door. Metal shuddered against her back. "Where are you, West Municipal Annex?" "Lower records." Another kick bent the upper hinge. Dust fell from the frame. "Do not use the elevator," she whispered. "It is counting stops even when no one is inside." Roman's voice became quieter. "How many men?" "At least 3. The bell sounded again beyond the wall. 62 seconds. The building itself was giving him a clock. A third impact split the steel around the lock. Her ribs burned as she pushed herself upright. "Roman. I'm here." For 6 years, she had arranged his exits, repaired his schedules, and solved problems before he knew they existed. Asking for help felt more dangerous than the men outside. "Can you pick me up?" Someone shouted from the corridor. "Break her writing hand if she still won't sign." The door tore halfway free. Roman said one sentence before the line vanished beneath the crash. "Stay alive until I reach you." Chapter 8. The door he does not break. Roman reached West Municipal Annex in 11 minutes. Lenora Price sat beside him in the armored sedan, recording every order. Elias followed with 4 guards whose body cameras were live. The main entrance stood open. "Invitation," Elias said. "Or a frame," Lenora replied. Roman looked at the elevator indicator. It descended from 6 to 3, paused, then climbed again without opening. Avery had been right. He led them past the lobby to a rusted fire inspection panel. Building plans showed a maintenance corridor behind the lower archives sealed when the annex closed. Elias cut the external lock. Roman did not break the door Avery was behind. He entered through the wall built to be forgotten. Inside, 2 men were dragging the bent archive door from its frame. A third held Avery against a shelving unit, forcing a pen between her bruised fingers. Roman stopped where every camera could see him. "Release her." The man tightened his grip. "She is under protective authority." Lenora raised her credentials. "Not under mine." Elias disarmed the first guard. The others surrendered when Roman ordered the room preserved as evidence instead of allowing a shot to be fired. Only then did he approach Avery. Her sleeve was torn. Purple marks circled both wrists. Blood darkened the corner of her mouth, but the affidavit remained unsigned on the floor. Roman held out his hand without touching her. "May I?" Avery nodded. He helped her stand, supporting only the weight she gave him. For 1 second, her forehead rested against his chest. Then every phone in the room chimed. A council broadcast opened automatically. A recording played in Avery's voice. "Roman Calder made me stay. He controlled where I went. I was afraid to refuse him." Avery lifted her head. "I never said that." On the screen, Silas Vane requested immediate activation of the covenant, and the council clock began counting down from 60 seconds. Chapter 9. A voice made from 12 words stopped the countdown, Roman ordered. Lenora kept her camera on him. "Only the council can." Avery crossed the room. Pain sharpened beneath her ribs, but the recording mattered more than comfort. "Play it again." Her own voice filled the annex. "Roman Calder made me stay. He controlled where I went. I was afraid to refuse him." Avery closed her eyes, not to remember saying it, but to remember where each piece belonged. Roman Calder came from a scheduling call about the harbor vote. Made me stay came from a complaint about a delayed elevator. Controlled where I went belonged to a security briefing. Afraid to refuse him had been cut from 2 conversations about a council donor. 12 words, she said. 5 source calls. Elias routed the broadcast through forensic software. Splice marks appeared between breaths. Background noise changed 4 times. 1 fragment carried the Calder office clock. Another rang against Avery's window. Lenora transmitted the analysis. The countdown stopped at 7 seconds. Then Silas appeared on every screen. "A manipulated recording does not erase visible injuries or authenticated medical documentation," he said. "The covenant requires precaution, not certainty." He was right. Avery's bruises were real. Crow's records bore valid seals. The unsigned affidavit had been replaced by an emergency statement claiming Avery was too frightened to sign in Roman's presence. Council voted. Roman's privileges vanished from Elias's tablet one by one. Weapons authorization, property access, security control, council vote. Silas's name replaced his. Roman looked at Avery. "I'm taking you somewhere secure." "No, Avery, you do not get to hide me because someone built a lie around your protection." The council seal flashed red. Roman Calder suspended 48 hours. Silas's voice entered the room. "Effective immediately, Avery Quinn is remanded to protective custody." Chapter 10. The boss without a vote. Silas's custody order reached every Calder device at once. Elias's men looked at Roman. For 6 years, that glance had moved armed people and opened sealed rooms. Now every authorization belonged to Silas. Roman could still take command by force. That was the trap. "If anyone draws a gun in my name," he said, "Silas wins." The guards lowered their hands. Avery stood beside the broken archive door while Lenora recorded the order and her injuries. Silas appeared on Elias's tablet. Miss Quinn will be transferred to council protection immediately. Under whose custody? Avery asked. Mine until review. You are named in my account. You have made no signed statement. Roman stepped forward. Avery touched his sleeve. Do not answer for me. He stopped. She faced the tablet. I reject transfer to any unit reporting to the acting chief counsel. I will remain with Auditor Price under continuous recording. Silas smiled. You are confused. No, I am bruised. Those are not the same condition. Lenora invoked emergency witness authority before Silas could end the call. At Calder Tower, Roman's office had been sealed. His elevator rejected his handprint. Men who had obeyed him that morning now waited behind glass for permission to acknowledge him. He surrendered his weapons and signed the suspension receipt. Then he wrote beneath his name, all orders issued during this period must be preserved without deletion. At 3:08, Avery accessed the council mirror server from Lenora's secured room. Silas had reassigned Elias, suspended loyal guards, and classified West Annex as a protected medical site. One order sat beneath them, scheduled for 4:30 a.m. Authorized destruction all paper records connected to civilian protection claims. Avery turned the screen toward Roman. They are not trying to survive 48 hours. Her finger rested on the execution time. They are trying to erase 9 years before sunrise. Chapter 11, Purple Carbon, at 3:26. Lenora sealed the room and placed an evidence tray beneath the camera. Avery removed her cream coat. The lining had torn near the pocket. She opened the seam with Lenora's scissors and drew out the narrow purple strip taken from Crow Private Medical. It looked insignificant. Under angled light, reversed letters appeared across its surface. Immediate suspension of Roman Calder employee unable to leave voluntarily, signature Avery Quinn. The pressure marks matched the affidavit Avery had found before any bruise existed. Lenora photographed both sides, bagged the strip, and logged the time. This proves the form was prepared before the clinic examined you, she said. It proves they expected my signature, Avery replied. Not who paid for it. Elias called from the records annex. His reassignment had not yet taken effect outside Calder property. He had reached the destruction room before Silas's team. Most files were intact. One contained Crow's medication ledger. Avery's name appeared beside a sedative authorization entered at 8:03 that morning, 39 minutes before she arrived, under an alias. Dr. Crow requested counsel. Then she requested protection. Her statement arrived by encrypted video. Silas had paid her to certify injuries in 3 previous cases. She had prepared Avery's photography board from a list sent the night before. Lenora asked the only question that mattered. Which account paid you? Crow lowered her eyes. A transfer record appeared on the screen. Calder Discretionary Security Fund. Roman's private authorization seal stood beneath it. Silas joined the council feed before Avery could speak. You wanted proof, he said. Roman financed the clinic, the transport, and the men. Roman studied the seal. It is valid, he said. The room went silent. Silas smiled. Roman did not deny the account was his. He only said, I never reviewed who I allowed to use it. Chapter 12. The account he never reviewed. Roman requested the fund records himself. Silas objected from the council screen. Your suspension prohibits financial access. It does not prohibit surrender. Roman placed his authorization ring seal and account keys on Lenora's evidence tray. Open everything. The records showed 9 years of payments approved beneath Roman's name. Clinics, temporary housing, security transfers, settlements. Silas had never forged the seal. Roman had given him standing authority and stopped asking what protection cost. Avery read each transfer while Roman stood across from her without defense. "You built a system that trusted one loyal man more than a permanent record," she said. "Yes. That answer does not clear you." "I know." He signed a waiver releasing the fund to independent audit. The decision exposed legitimate operations, compromised protected assets, and weakened companies that depended on secrecy. Silas watched him do it. "You are destroying your organization for a secretary." Roman looked at Avery's bruised wrists. "No. I am destroying the part that made this possible." The ledger linked Crow Private Medical to 3 older protection claims. Each followed the same pattern: bruises, an unsigned emergency statement, a 48-hour suspension, then a settlement paid through a shell company. 2 complainants had disappeared from the city. The third had not. Nora Bell, former payroll supervisor, lived under another name 80 miles north. Her final complaint stated that Silas had forced her signature after removing her employer from power. Lenora called the number attached to a tax record. A woman answered, listened, and refused to speak while Roman was present. "I will meet Avery Quinn," Nora said. "No Calder guards, no private car, no order from him." Roman's expression tightened. Avery waited. Then he stepped away from the table. "She chooses the route," he said, "and I do not follow." Chapter 13. No escort, no order. Avery left before dawn in Lenora's sedan. No Calder car followed. No armed man waited in the mirror. Roman remained in the audit room with his suspension clock running exactly as Nora Bell had demanded. The meeting place was a closed railway cafe 80 miles north. Nora sat in the far booth with gray hair cut close to her jaw and hands around an untouched cup. "You look like I did," she said, studying Avery's wrists. "Still trying to make the evidence behave." Lenora placed her recorder on the table. "You control when it starts." Nora nodded. 9 years earlier, Silas had accused her employer of coercion using the same clinic, the same unsigned emergency declaration, and the same 48-hour removal. While the organization argued about whether her bruises proved anything, Silas emptied payroll accounts and destroyed the original ledgers. "He needed my signature to make his authority permanent," Nora said. "When I refused, they broke 2 fingers. She removed a brass key from her coat. Its square head bore a diagonal chip. The service elevator at West Annex required 2 keys. Silas carried one. I stole the other after they let me go." Avery photographed it beside the elevator maintenance log recovered by Elias. The damaged edge matched the marks recorded whenever the lower car was manually activated, including the night Silas claimed he never left the council chamber. Nora unfolded an evacuation map. "He used this after my hearing. A false fire order moved every council member into one corridor while his men replaced the archive." Avery studied the highlighted route. The same corridor appeared in the emergency plan, scheduled for that afternoon's public review. Silas was not only preparing to defend the old lie, he was preparing to gather everyone capable of exposing it behind one controlled door. Nora pressed the chipped key into Avery's palm. "This time, do not let him decide where the witnesses stand." Chapter 14. Bruises do not name the man. The public review began at 4:00 beneath 3 cameras. Silas stood before the council with Avery's medical photographs enlarged behind him. Roman sat without a vote, his authorization ring sealed in Lenora's evidence case. Silas pointed to the bruises around Avery's wrists. "This is what power leaves behind when no one interrupts it." Avery walked to the center table. "Bruises prove force," she said. "They do not name the hand that used it." She placed the purple carbon strip beneath the document camera. Reversed words appeared on every screen: the suspension clause, her accusation, and her signature line prepared before the first injury. Next came Crow's medication ledger, the clinic board listing bruises not yet made, and the wide-angle ballroom video Silas's access level had erased. Elias presented the West Annex elevator log. Avery set Nora Bell's chipped key beside it. The damage matched each manual activation, including one during the hour Silas claimed he never left the council chamber. Nora appeared by secure video. He used my body the same way she said. As evidence for a story he wrote first. Silas did not look at her. He looked at Roman. All of this was funded through Calder accounts. Roman rose. It was. The room shifted. I gave one man permanent authority because I trusted loyalty more than oversight, Roman said. That failure is mine. He signed 2 instruments before Lenora's surrender of the hereditary veto and full release of his private security archive to independent audit. Silas's composure cracked. You cannot dismantle the office during suspension. I am not exercising power, Roman replied. I am giving it up. The fire alarm sounded. Every screen changed to an evacuation order bearing Avery's name and directing the council toward the east corridor. Avery looked at Nora's map. Do not move, she said. Outside the chamber, locks began closing one by one. Chapter 15. The order she refuses to sign. The east corridor sealed first. Beyond the chamber doors came the steps of Silas's security unit. Their commander announced that the council was being relocated under Avery Quinn's emergency authority. Avery looked at the forged order. My signature is missing. Silas stood near the side exit, one hand inside his coat. Temporary authority allows verbal confirmation, not permanent command. His eyes hardened. That was what the affidavit clinic and bruises had always been designed to obtain Avery's signature beneath a lie that would outlast 48 hours. Silas placed a document before her. Sign, and no one here needs to be injured. Roman moved. Avery raised one hand without looking at him. Do not save me by proving his story. Roman stopped. Lenora opened the council's public channel. Every microphone went live. Avery turned the unsigned order toward the camera. You prepared my accusation before I was hurt. You arranged the clinic before I arrived. You sent men to break my hand because you needed this. Silas leaned close enough for her microphone to catch him. I needed your signature because Roman made you credible. Without it, the removals expire and everything returns to him. Avery looked at the red light. Thank you. His confession filled the council. Outside, the commander ordered the locks opened. Silas shouted that he still held acting authority. No one obeyed. Elias entered with neutral officers and took Silas's weapon. Roman remained hands visible while Crow and the annex guards were placed in independent custody pending prosecution. When the chamber emptied, Avery removed her identification card. Roman looked at it. You do not have to decide tonight. I decided when they used my job to make my fear look like consent. She placed the card on the table. I resign as your secretary. Roman opened his mouth. Avery walked away before he could ask her to stay. Chapter 16. The car she chooses. 8 months later, Avery Quinn worked behind a door carrying her own name. Director, Civilian Safeguards Office. No Calder seal appeared beneath it. The office reported to an independent board. Every complaint existed in 3 files. No chief council boss or employee could erase a record alone. Medical examinations required 2 unrelated witnesses. Emergency suspensions still protected civilians, but no acting officer could inherit permanent authority from them. Silas Vane awaited trial on conspiracy, unlawful detention, evidence fabrication, and financial crimes. Dr. Crow had surrendered her license and was cooperating under investigation. The Calder organization survived smaller and audited without hereditary veto power. Roman had kept every promise that cost him something. He had not offered Avery her old position. He had not placed guards outside her apartment without permission. When her office investigated 2 Calder captains, he opened the records and accepted the findings. At 6:58, Avery shut down her computer. Through the windows, she saw Roman beside a black sedan across the street. No convoy, no driver. The engine was off. He entered only after the receptionist called her. His suit was dark, his hands empty. "May I pick you up tonight?" he asked. The old words passed between them without becoming a cage. Avery looked at the clock. 7. "Don't be early." Roman stepped backward into the hall. For 2 minutes he waited beside the car. Avery locked the evidence cabinet, put on her coat, and walked outside under her own authority. Roman opened the passenger door but did not touch her. She paused beside him. "This is dinner," she said. "Not protection. I know, and I choose when it ends. I know that too." Avery smiled and entered the car. The first time she had asked Roman to pick her up, a steel door was breaking behind her. This time, the door remained whole. She had opened it herself. Silas believed the person who wrote the rules could decide which pain became evidence and which voice became official. Roman believed loyalty could replace oversight and that trusted power required no witness. Both were wrong. Avery's bruises proved force, but they did not name the hand behind it. The purple carbon 12 stolen words the clinic prepared in advance, the chipped elevator key, and 9 years of hidden payments exposed a system built to right victims before harming them. Avery did not win because Roman arrived in time. She won because she preserved sequence, refused a false signature, and would not trade one form of captivity for another. Roman earned no reward for protecting her. He earned the chance to wait only after surrendering the power that had endangered her. The first time Avery asked him to pick her up, a door was breaking behind her. The last time he waited outside until she opened the door herself.